Shout out to the Professor and Asper's Gaming for supporting me at level 3 or higher on Patreon. Hey everyone! I'm Albert Boris. Oh man, if only October 20th was today. So, a few days ago, a new Nintendo Direct aired, showcasing us announcements of upcoming video games this year as well as the next one. It was one of my personal favorite Directs of all time, with so many cool games getting announced, the most notable one obviously being the brand new 2D Mario game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. To say that I'm hyped for it would be a terrible understatement. It's been 11 years since the last new 2D Mario game, New Super Mario Bros. U on the Wii U, which I suppose is pretty expected since the oversaturation of the new series might have tired people out. Not a bad series at all, but not really a unique one. So obviously, the next step for 2D Mario was going to be something new, and for the last few years, it had been rumored that Nintendo was working on a new game in this style. And now, a few days ago, we finally got our first glimpse of it. One thing is for sure, I would have never expected something like this. Here I thought for some reason would maybe get a 2D open world game like Super Mario 63. By the way Nintendo, please do that next. In the meantime though, this is one of the most unique looking Mario games I've ever laid eyes on, and I absolutely can't wait to see how it turns out. So while we're waiting for this potential gem, I thought, let's have a discussion about it. More specifically, I wanted to make a wish list for things I hope to see, as well as predict how I think this game might shape up to be. There's not much else to do now while waiting for it anyway, so I wanted to give it a go before I start working on a few other big video projects I've had in mind. In order to not get lost, I will be dividing this video into a few separate sections where I talk about different aspects of the game. First, I will be going over the game's story and structure. Then I will weave into the levels themselves, ultimately transitioning into items, characters, bosses, etc. So, with all that being said, let's get right into the meat, opening up with the game's story. This is probably the least important aspect of the game. After all, Mario games aren't really known for their storytelling, except for in very rare circumstances. Similarly, most Mario games also have a very simple structure. You know, beat levels in a world, defeat the boss, and repeat. However, that's not to say this game won't break the trend. What we do know is that this game takes place in an entirely new location, the Flower Kingdom, primarily inhabited by these flower-like creatures, and because both Peach and Daisy are playable, the story is already looking to be a bit different, seeing as we're not here to rescue them. That said, Bowser still seems to be the main antagonist, as a flying fortress with his face on it similar to the one in Super Mario Galaxy 2 can be seen flying on the world map in some shots. If there is something I believe is going to have a very huge impact on not just the game's story but gameplay as well, however, it would be these things. The Wonder Flowers and Seeds. In the trailer, we see Mario stumble upon a Wonder Flower and subsequently turning the entire world haywire. Night falls, green pipes get a life of their own, and who knows, probably something else. The purpose of it though seems to be that while the effects of this flower are active, you need to do something in order to find a Wonder Seed, whether that includes running to a specific point in the level, defeating a mini-boss, or maybe something else. Most likely, I'm also guessing there's gonna be a timer to these things since it's supposed to be a challenge. Exactly what these are for is a bit of a mystery, but it seems pretty clear that the Wonder Seeds are at least one of the primary collectibles in this game. Overall, the most likely scenario I think is that the story is just gonna be Bowser trying to take over the Flower Kingdom, and these seeds don't serve much purpose other than unlocking new levels. However, a small part of me hopes that they will play a slightly bigger role. Not only are they earned through grabbing a Wonder Flower, but apparently they're also earned at the end of each level by a resident. Who knows, maybe Bowser is here because he wants to loot the kingdom, and we need to find the seeds before he does and then use their power to defeat him. In the best case scenario, the flower seeds have both of those purposes. What I am most sure of though is that they will be used to unlock levels, at least when looking at how the world map appears to be structured. So from what I can gather, the world map appears to be one giant location, but with many varying themes, similarly to New Super Mario Bros. U. The first world appears to, quite expectedly, be a basic grassland setting, with the player following a path of levels. But at the end, Mario and his friends grab a few flowers in order to fly over here to a mountainous location. There is also a shot of a pink cloud world where you're able to move around freely without being restricted to paths. And here you can see a blue space with a sign on it, and on the sign is, you guessed it, a Wonder Seed. In a nutshell, it appears the world map structure will be a bit of a blend between New Super Mario Bros. U as well as Super Mario 3D World, and I think that has a lot of potential. My biggest concern, if I had one, would be that the game, instead of having a few large worlds like an other Mario game, instead just has a lot of small worlds. Yoshi's Crafted World, another game on the Nintendo Switch, took this approach, and you instead had like 17 different worlds with only like 2 to 3 levels within them. On one hand, that did allow the developers to create multiple levels with varying themes, but it also made the game's progression feel all over the place since there wasn't really a checkpoint and you just kind of played as you went. And from what we could gather in this trailer alone, the first world appears to only have like 4 levels. However, even if that is the case, I trust the developers will find a way to make it fun and exceed my expectations, unlike that game. What I'm personally most interested to see how it will turn out though are the levels themselves and how they interact with the worlds they're found in. We saw quite a few new levels in the trailer, most notably basically the entire first level, as well as the second stage, a forest with pipes. A few levels also had a backdrop and color scheme resembling the second world, like this one with the chipmunk, this one with the sheep, or this wiggler. Beyond that though, there were so many other cool looking levels as well, such as this stunning beach, this freefall through pink clouds, an autumn forest, a factory of some sort, a Candyland, a mushroom valley, this road to Bowser's castle, and my personal most hyped, the green pipe jungle. There's so much variety and I can't wait to see how these levels will play out, what gimmicks they'll use, and most importantly, where they will be in the game and how they will interact with the world map. If I had to personally guess around where in the game we will be seeing all of these levels, this is my prediction. The first world is gonna be the basic grassland, no surprise there. Afterwards, we get to the arid mountains with caverns and deserts. Following that is a forest world, as seen in the distance here, featuring all sorts of forest levels, which ultimately becomes more haunted until you get to a ghost house, possibly a boss level. Then we have the calm beach world with underwater reefs and natural reserves at sunset, the snowy wonderland with factories abound, before you get to the cloud stage, the final one perhaps, with this level even featuring Bowser's castle in the backdrop. This shouldn't really be taken seriously since I still don't know exactly how this game operates, but it would be fun to see how well it ages. And yeah, besides the first 2 levels, I made those names up myself. I also have a few personal level ideas which Nintendo probably won't feature, but I wanted to briefly mention them just because why not? For one, I would love to see a level that takes place high up in the sky above any clouds, filled with green pipes, uses platforms, warps, and everything. Imagine how crazy a level like that would be if you were to grab a wonder flower in that setting. We already saw how pipes get affected by them. Another idea is a deep trench type of underwater level, with caverns, ravines, and barely any sunlight, making for a bit of a spooky level. Maybe we could also have an entirely different kind of desert level. Most deserts in Mario are typically based on the Sahara style desert with yellow sands and pyramids, but what if we could instead have something based on like the Australian outback? Or what about a spooky meadow with fog everywhere? The possibilities are endless, so much so that I really just mentioned a bunch of ideas I made for Mario Kart courses. But hey, I think they would be good 2D levels as well.
Speaking of Mario Kart, aren't you forgetting something, Albert?
Huh? Forgetting what?
They announced a new city course for Mario Kart Tour, and you didn't even make a video about that?
Oh yeah, you're right. It's just that I'm trying to branch out my content here, and I think Super Mario Bros. Wonder might be of a slightly higher priority than Mario Kart Tour. But you know what? I suppose I can say a few words about this track too. So the next city track in Mario Kart Tour is gonna be based on Rome. Certainly not what a lot of people were expecting since we already have Athens which resembles it. However, it seems like they made it distinct enough by having you drive more in the urban areas as well as setting it at night. The first impression I get is that it's gonna be a bit of a simple track layout wise, mostly just taking you through serene streets and one section having you circle around the Colosseum before landing in a park. This is the layout I came up with for the 2 variants we're getting, and personally I actually kind of hope it becomes the first track of Wave 5 overall. It feels a bit like New York Minute that way in that it's a calm night track with a somewhat simple layout, while still interesting enough for Wave 5. This does throw a wrench into my predictions, but yeah. All I'm saying, I hope Wave 5 looks like this, even if it's not that realistic. Overall though, it looks amazing and it might actually end up becoming one of my favorite city tracks. Now that that's out of the way though, let's venture on with the video. The last thing we're gonna be talking about are characters and items. And when I say characters, I'm not just talking about playable characters. That would make for a pretty bland summary. I mean, we all know by this point which characters are playable. Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Yellowtoad, as well as Yoshi. And honestly, I think it will be these characters only. Otherwise it's gonna get over bloated, as much as I'd like to see a playable Wario and Waluigi. Maybe we can get Blue Toad as well, but he was excluded from the Switch part of New Super Mario Bros. U, so I wouldn't count on it. No, but when I say characters, I mean in general, like also including enemies and bosses, the latter more specifically. Enemies are pretty broad and there is not much to say other than there are some returning ones like Goombas and Spinnies, as well as brand new ones I can't put my finger on. Frankly, I think some of the new ones look a bit derpy and un-Mario-like. I have an odd phobia of balloons in particular, so this level is gonna be difficult for me to get through. Bosses are something I'm a bit more curious about though. For the last few games, the bosses of Mario games have largely been the Koopalings, although I'm fairly positive they won't return this time. What we do know is that one boss looks to be Bowser Jr., and judging by the backdrop, it looks like it will be set in a factory of some sorts, possibly indicating that it will be fought in the same world as the other Snowy Factory levels. If I were to guess all of the bosses we might see, going by my idea of the game's progression, this would be it. The best scenario is that each world, if we're having those, will contain a brand new type of boss based on enemies unique to this game, like the hippos or the balloon fish. So yeah, lastly, we have items and power-ups. This is perhaps one of the areas where we are most free to predict whatever we like. The known forms we know Mario can take in this game are Super Mario, obviously, Fire Mario, Invincible Mario, Spinny Mario, and everyone's favorite Elephant Mario. Just look at this thing, it's so stupid and adorable. It allows you to just walk onto enemies to defeat them. Well, sleeping ones at least. However, I have a teeny tiny feeling that the elephant effect is gonna be exclusive to Mario. When I try to imagine the other characters looking like elephants, yeah, I'm sorry, it just looks so wrong. Instead, what I believe is that while every character will be able to pick up this fruit, they will transform into different animals with different purposes. We know about Mario. Luigi can become a giraffe, which allows him to reach higher areas and perhaps jump higher, even though giraffes aren't really known for jumping, but hey, it's fiction. Toad becomes a bunny and runs much faster, while Peach becomes a Pegasus and is able to float mid-air. Daisy becomes a lion and is able to destroy blocks and crates with ease. And Yoshi? He can pass. I predict he's basically gonna be an easy mode character anyways. So yeah, is this a realistic approach for me? To be honest, I don't know, but it would help make the gameplay more varied, as well as give each character a designated purpose. Unfortunately, that will also mean that we might not get a lot of other power-ups since most of them are found within the elephant fruit. But hey, maybe we can still see a few of the traditional ones, such as the ice flower, cape feather, and maybe the hammer and boomerang flowers. Maybe we could get some other new power-ups as well, like, what about a poison flower? It could function a bit similar to an ice flower, but once it hits an enemy, it both immediately defeats them, as well as leaves a small puddle of toxic waste for about 5 seconds, and if you walk into it, you'll lose your power-up. Similarly, I have an idea for an electric flower, which functions like a fire flower, except it leaves behind a trail of electricity for a few seconds that you can't walk into. Basically, they'd be power-ups you have to be careful of yourself as well. So yeah, overall though, those are all of my thoughts, predictions and wishes for the new Super Mario Bros. Wonder game releasing on October 20th this year. But what are your hopes for this game? Did you agree with me or not? Maybe you have better ideas? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to like, share and subscribe to my channel as I talk about everything Mario related. But with all of that being said, I'm signing off. Until next time.